Welcome, Regent Perkins. We're so happy to have you here. If I can use the mic properly. Let me first thank our sponsors, the Foreign Exchange, where we are right now. Number 2, Stephanie Phillips, the U.S. Senate candidate. Number 3 is Carl Carterata, Clark County School District A. Ron Quince, U.S. Congressional District 1. And my favorite, all day long in slang, there's proof right there, Barbie's Goodies. We had donuts this morning, and all day long. Oh, and that's right, and there's some lying here too. Okay, so I'll explain the interview process. As the panel members will introduce themselves one by one, so you'll know who they are, by giving their name, position, and the organization they represent. Then each candidate, which is just you'll be given 1 minute to introduce yourself, and you'll be asked to explain why you are running and seeking our endorsement. Number 3, candidates, please remember this is an interview. There's no debate, so it doesn't apply to us. Number 4, when you receive a question from a panel member, you'll be given 1 minute to answer that question. Number 3, we have one more candidate, so it does apply to us. Right on. Should I just start from the beginning to explain the procedures? Yes. Welcome, ma'am. Thank you so much for being here. I'll explain the interview process. The panel members will introduce themselves by giving their name, position, and the organization they represent. By the way, I'm Patrick Boylan. I'm a regent at NSHE. Number 2, each candidate will be given 1 minute to introduce themselves and asked to explain why they are running and seeking our endorsement. Number 3, candidates, please remember, this is an interview, not a debate. So when asked a question from a panel member, you will direct your answer to the panel members only, not between yourselves. Number 4, when you receive a question from a panel member, you will be given 1 minute to answer the question. Number 5, Jim is here, will be the timekeeper. Once you receive the yellow card, he's going to show you that's what it looks like. You will be given 15 seconds to wrap up, and once you are given the red card, Jim will cut you off. It's like soccer, all right? You get a yellow card, you're still in. Red card, you are out, all right? I did the sponsors ahead of time. You missed them, but they're the people that are sponsoring us here. So I will let the panel members go ahead and introduce themselves. Young Kylie here will start. Thank you, sir.
Good evening. Kylie Tuckett, Veterans in Politics.
Andre Haynes, Armed Forces Chamber.
Matthew DeFalco, Nevada Democratic Veterans and Military Families Caucus.
Jim Jonas, Director of Veterans in Politics.
Barbara Lucian, Veterans in Politics.
Steve Horner, Nevada Democratic Veterans and Military Families Caucus.
Barbara Dreyer, Nevada Democratic Veterans and Military Families Caucus.
Mikey Kelly, Nevada Democratic Veterans and Military Families Caucus.
Good afternoon. First of all, thank you for having me here. My name is Laura Perkins. I'm running for State Senate District 4. Currently, I'm a regent for the Nevada System of Higher Education. Let's see. It's like running 8 little cities, or actually 8 medium-sized cities, because we have 8 institutions that are under the jurisdiction of NSHE. Let's see. What else do you want to know? I worked for CSN as a teaching assistant in dental hygiene department. I also worked for the University of Nevada, Reno as a student liaison for the 3rd and 4th year students when they came down from medical school, when they came down to Vegas to do their 2 years. Slightly distracting over there, Steve. Let's see. And the reason I'm running for this position is because I think because I'm downstream from the legislature, I could take the ideas that I've learned and the things I've learned being downstream to go upstream and push down good policy.
So I'm Senator Dina Neal. I represent Senate District 4. I was elected in 2020. I'm running for re-election. I'm an incumbent. I've been in the legislature since 2011. I was elected in 2010, served in the assembly for 11 years. And so I've had roughly, I guess I'm 14 years into my service in the legislature. Why am I running? Because I have consistently focused on policy, program, and access. I have served my constituents well. I have worked on civil rights issues and a range of healthcare policy, neighborhood issues. I've managed to be state and local at the same time. And my constituents have continued to support me as they did in 2020.
Good evening, and thank you for coming. This is a kind of, we might as well get a little fired up here. So let's start with this. Veterans and military members have to sometimes make very hard decisions, and sometimes those decisions aren't necessarily great. But they are the right thing to do. Last session, Senator Neal, you sponsored a bill in relation to an area known as Windsor Park that had been adversely affected by, quite frankly, circumstances that were within people's control and which people didn't care. Some of those folks living in Windsor Park are military family members, and some of them are veterans. And no one was out there for them, and no one was doing anything. You put up a bill that changed their lives. And I want to know from both of you, what do you feel? What both of you feel about that? What are your opinions? Because those are the hard decisions that veterans expect from their elected officials.
You should probably answer that first.
Oh, well, it was your bill. Windsor Park has been there ever since. I grew up right around the corner from Windsor Park in the 030. That area has been that way for many, many years. There's been opportunities to fix it, and some of them were missed, and some of them just weren't the right thing at the right time. And I believe on that bill we can improve it and make sure that the people of Windsor Park get what they invested in North Las Vegas when nobody was investing in North Las Vegas, and so those people deserve to have that their homes be valued and their investment be valued and reciprocated.
So thank you for the question. SB 450, which was already approved for $37 million to basically move 93 families and create new homes. So they had been left in a state of suspension for over 30 years, and being able to pass down a home was something they were not able to do. They couldn't pass down wealth or a single asset down to their family. So this remedy was super important, not only for their grandchildren, but for their children who now will have an asset that they can have their grandmother and their fathers and their mothers worked hard for in the 60s. And so the bill is set up not only to provide restitution for those families, but it's already has the request for a proposal done. We have a contractor, and the families are excited and ready to move because this created hope for not only just themselves, but for a new generation that they will now have quality life. And I established what their issues were by the minutes, city council, and other.
Thank you both for coming. Barbara Dreyer. I just, as a former teacher, and I taught in behavior schools here in Clark County, subsequently that were closed by CCSD, I'm curious, what are your ideas for improving effective discipline in our schools? And then I have a second question as well. If you're aware, what is the significance of April in regards to the military family?
Okay, let's start. CCSD. CCSD has been had issues, as you know, for quite a while. I don't think there's a one-stop solution because there's so many things that are there's so many moving parts that there's not a one-stop solution. The first thing we need to do is get a good superintendent because I believe a fish does rot from the head. And the second part of the question was? Sorry.
The significance of April for the military families.
Isn't that Military Families Month?
So close, almost there. We'll give you like credit for that one. But I
Military
won't say it yet.
Military families. You know this. I do. You have. Okay, I got a yellow light here, a yellow card. Military families. Veterans and Military Families Month. Veterans, military family. That's all that's coming to mind. Sorry, folks. Veterans.
So the school district has been a significant problem. The legislature has actually tried to create accountability, transparency. We all saw that the current superintendent who left didn't want to follow the law. He actually rebuffed the law in regards to teacher salaries, also around accountability. I think if we're ever going to change what's happening with students, number one, the new superintendent has to come in with at least 10 years of knowledge, even if it's the national search. But if it's from Nevada, they have to have 10 years of academic policy, program, and law, because you need to know where we came from in order to fix and adjust. The students, we worked on, as you know, there were two bills. There was a Senate bill that it was both assembly bills. It was Assembly Bill 330, that was Assemblywoman Taylor's bill, and then Lombardo's bill around discipline. So Assemblywoman Taylor's bill was the one that ended up moving. There was a compromise between the two bills, which allowed basically us to discipline 11 years and up with the plan. So making sure that we're just not automatically suspending kids, but we're actually focused on what they need in order to academically achieve. And it is Military Month for kids. Children.
Military children. Suicide among veterans continues to rise. And I know that we passed some money, minuscule amount of money, about 4 years ago. But the veteran suicide rate continues to rise. What can we do? What can you do as senators and legislators to help curb this trend and begin to see less and less suicide among our veterans?
Thank you for that answer. I appreciate it. Well, let's start with what I have done as a regent. We've started to graduate more social workers and more healthcare professionals from Nevada State and from Nevada State University and from the UNLV and UNR. And we've that's where I believe mental health is very important, and we need to acknowledge that in our veterans community and give them the services that we need. However, across the state, we're lacking in the people to provide those services.
So I know one area. So recently, in 23, we passed AB 44, which focused on training of veteran services. I think that's one area that we can strengthen. There have been multiple attempts in order to coordinate and make sure that veteran services, that they're actually trained in order to go after the issues related to veterans within our state. Two, we've passed a lot of policy around suicide prevention. We have coalitions, and I think there is just more of a specific need in order to do more training, identification. We know that a lot of our veterans are finding themselves in the Hope for Corridor, and they are not necessarily being treated, and then when they pass away, there is no recognition or no conversation about what happened and what's going on with them. I think the state can probably put more money, right, into interventions and services the same way that we're doing on the other side when it's related to bullying in children.
Good afternoon, Barbara with Veterans in Politics. With all the shootings, and I know it's a horrible, horrible subject, and with the UNLV, what besides getting more officers, is there anything else that you have in mind that can help the safety of these schools?
Thank you for that question. Let's see. What are we doing now at UNLV? We're changing the lock system, which was one of the deterrents from the officers being able to reach people in time. So now we're going to a new lock system where that certain people will have access to certain doors and just a key fob as opposed to a set of keys, because one of the problems that we also had was nobody had the key to the proper doors. So, and that was one of the problems that we had, reaching people in time. And so that was, a lot of damage was caused because they had to break down the doors. I was on the campus, so it's still a little bit triggering. Other things we're doing is, of course, providing mental health for students and for anyone that was involved or engaged or affected by. And on a positive note, we actually started a scholarship in the names of the faculty that were hurt and injured.
Can you repeat the question? Because it was more, what can we do outside of?
Yeah, well, I basically was just, do you have any ideas or plans on to prevent things like this happening?
So the legislature has attempted to try to move several bills around gun safety, mental health, the type of gun. They mostly were held by Assemblywoman Hodeggy. Those were mostly her bills. She's been the champion ever since she was associated with October 1st. But I also think that we lose sight of environmental design for communities, lighting, what the street looks like, making sure that safety actually exists from the surrounding area. I think within schools, and especially over at UNLV, at least having a 2 to 3 mile radius where it's well lit, the way that the bushes and everything is set up, the windows, those are very specific things that I learned when I was taking, I had a course, well, actually I was helping somebody with a course in law enforcement on how environmental design can change the criminality.
Hi, thank you both for being here. It's nice to see you. Matthew DeFalco. My question, in 2019, Nevada opened up the Northern Nevada Veterans Home. Many veterans, including veterans on this panel, raised alarm bells when the state decided to privatize the facility. In April 2022, the Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services, CMS, issued 37 health citations to the home, nearly 5 times the national average and 3 times the average for Nevada facilities inspected by CMS. The home received a 2 out of 5 star rating from CMS because of health inspection failures, including several for deficiencies in quality of life, infection control, and pharmacy service. The Veterans Home in Southern Nevada, by contrast, which is run by the state and is not privatized, is rated 5 stars. Given the series of disasters at the Northern Nevada Veterans Home, what is your stance on changing the privatization of the facility to ensure the safety and well-being of our veterans in the future? And I'm not looking for words of support. I want a yes or a no. Will you support the changing of the privatization of the facility or not? Thank you.
So, Senator Neal, for the record, yes. It came up in Senate Finance. There were several issues that popped up specifically around the COVID setup within the facilities, how they were sharing, co-sharing, urinals, spaces, and it actually was not conducive for anybody to be in the northern home and actually be well. Right? And so it was a huge topic that was discussed in Senate Finance on how to move the needle and change things, and ultimately where we should equalize how the South and the Northern homes are treated, because we invested in it. I believe that came under Sandoval in 2015, that he wanted to create the Northern home, and we just need to do right.
You still want a yes or no answer? Actually, yes, I do not support privatization because we don't have enough people for oversight, plain and simple. If we invest more in oversight, when I came from the Southern Nevada Health District, that's what they regulated. Is one of the sections that they regulated was the residency homes, and there wasn't enough inspectors to go around. They'd only get inspected once every 6 months, and so without that oversight, then yes, privatization can't function properly. And so I believe, yes, the answer is yes, I would support, I would not support privatization. Sorry, lost my voice.
Good evening again, Kylie Tuckett. For community members and veterans who aren't familiar with the state Senate district position, what can you educate them on your responsibility to them, as well as the biggest change you would like to see in your district?
Take the softballs. Biggest change. I think I'm kind of a nerdy person, so I believe in technology and education. I believe education is the first and most effective way out of poverty and to better your families. So once you get an education, I'll bring the train home. Once you get into education, that gift keeps giving and giving and giving. So if you go to college, your child is more likely to go to college, and your great-grandchild is more than likely to go to college. I want that in my district. I want my district to be equipped to handle those jobs of the future.
So to educate folks on what the state legislature does and what the Senate does, so basically we create law. The idea is to create law that will impact families at a grassroots level and also within organizations, political subdivisions, and cities. So we govern several sectors within our state. We have a Dillon's rule, which means that the state governs what cities and counties do and how they perform and what they work on. In addition, we are also able to create programs through statutory provisions, which is some of the things that we've started to do. Like, for example, I created an NB Grow program, which allowed small businesses to advance, which is also a program that veterans can also get into. So we take them from their budding stage, and then we also take them from their second stage, and we teach them basically how to fish. How do you market? We set the parameters through law on what that means with the dollars and cents in order to run the program.
Haynes, Armed Forces Chamber PAC. My question is for the Senator. The Las Vegas Review-Journal published a story alleging that you're being investigated for channeling funds to unqualified companies, and that months after the story was published, you established a legal defense fund. Are you under investigation, and what expenses will the legal defense fund cover?
So, no, I'm not. 2, I created the legal defense fund and then I dissolved it within the month because I never put any money into the fund. And I turned in my dissolution papers last year to the Secretary of State along with the bank statements to prove that $0 never went into the account.
I don't have a legal defense fund.
Okay, so that's going to conclude the questions. So what I'm going to do is if each one of you could just wrap up, I'll give you a minute, like why you're the best person for the job, whatever you really want to say. So do you want, Senator, you still want her to go first, or? Okay.
So I think I'm the best person for the position of state senate that I currently hold because I have consistently worked for that district. The constituents, they have trusted me. They have put their trust in me. My votes in the last general election was 31,000 folks who voted for me. Even prior to where I held half of the district for 11 years, which was Assembly District 7. I have been consistent in my programs, my policy, and my access for citizens. They know they can reach me. They've always been able to contact me. I have went in and fixed several problems and continue to do so. And most of the bills that I bring are because it's what they ask me to do. And so far, they have yet to tell me that they are disinterested in me being their leader and servant within Senate District 4.
First of all, thank you for having me, and I appreciate this opportunity to come before you and speak to you. My name is Laura Perkins. I'm running for State Senate District 4. Currently, I hold the position as Regent for District 1 for the Nevada System of Higher Education. I started serving my community as a planning commissioner, so I bring that knowledge to the table. I also served the community on several events like the Tule Springs, Protectors of Tule Springs, which was the precursor that built the park that is now called Tule Springs National Park. I've always given my service and my time to my community to try to develop and listen to my constituents. And mostly, I'm accessible. I go to every single barbecue, pie tasting, chili making, so that I can be accessible in a non-threatening environment to my constituents, and that will always be true.
Just a quick reminder, ladies, would you like to put your website out there? How do people get in touch with you? Would you go ahead first, ma'am?
Thank you, sir. Let's see. I'm at Laura L. Perkins 4NLV. That's on Twitter and Insta. Formerly Twitter, X, and Instagram. I'm also on Facebook, Laura E. Perkins 4NLV. My email is lauraeperkins@lauraperkins.org. I'm not vain at all. Let's see. And I think that's all. Oh, my phone number, area code 702-460-2207.
So my website is dinaneal.com. I have an info box where it emails and it comes directly to my Gmail. On my website, you can also see all of the legislation that I worked on, whether or not it passed or not, from 2011 all the way to 2023. If you're interested, you can also see all of the committees that I've served on from 2011 to 2024, which includes local and national and state.
Thank you. Yes, thank you. I'm tripping over my nostrils again. Should I mention our sponsors now? Yes. Yeah. I'll mention the sponsors we have for this. The Foreign Exchange, where we are right now. Stephanie Phillips, U.S. Senate candidate. Carl Catorata, Clark County School District A. Ron Quince, U.S. Congressional District 1. And Barbie's Goodies. We got donuts from there this morning, and I've been eating all day, so they're right here. If you can just pull out your names like this, we're going to go out and take pictures, take a couple of photographs with you. Thank you so much for coming. We appreciate it, really do.